Hey prophets, this is Yosef and welcome back to Back of the Base, the special Purim edition, where we are having a two-part episode on Amalek. Why we are obligated to kill Amalek, why we are obligated to completely uproot Amalek from the world, and what Amalek did that they deserved such a fate, and why are the Jews the ones who are responsible to get rid of him. But before we get started, I'd just like to announce that Back of the Base is looking for sponsorships, whether it's a personal sponsorship, if you'd like to sponsor an episode or two, Le'iloi Nishmas, or in honor of a loved one, or if you'd like to do it for business. Back of the Base is currently looking for sponsorships. So please email us at backofthebase@gmail.com or find us on Facebook with any questions or comments, and we will get you all the information you need. And we appreciate your support. And really, to everyone who listens to us, thank you so much for the support we've gotten in the first month of our existence. We really appreciate it, and we look forward to providing you with many more podcasts for months and hopefully years to come. Getting back to this week's episode, so like I said, we are focusing on Amalek. This week, really the two episodes, both Yehuda and myself each had a different explanation as to what Amalek is all about. And the way the episode is really divided is that this week is my explanation of Amalek, and next week will be Yehuda's. So if you like one of us more than the other, then you could tune out either this week or next week and just focus on one. But in all seriousness, the whole story is connected, and to have one without the other would really be lacking. But anyway, without further ado, that's enough chit-chat. Let's get right into this week's episode, Amalek, Part 1, Back of the Base.
Figure skaters, the Israeli figure skater, he went somewhere. Did something in the Olympics.
The Israeli figure skater?
Yeah, there's an Israeli figure skater dude who he made some sort of waves in the Olympics.
I think everyone totally tanked in the Olympics from Israel, including the frum guy from Massachusetts.
There's a frum guy in the Olympics?
Yeah, modern Orthodox guy.
What, did he play table tennis?
Skeleton.
Okay, that's not a sport.
Well, I mean, it's a little more badass than table tennis.
What is skeleton?
You know what the luge is?
Oh, yeah.
So, skeleton is on your stomach, opposed to your back.
Yeah, one
It's
thing
really
I've never understood about these type things, at what age are you like, yeah, I'm going to train in that?
Exactly. Especially since these are 20-year-olds. Where do you go?
No, I'm saying, where you, like, I know where I can sign up for a baseball league. I know where I can sign up for a
You've never seen, come now, skeleton trials.
We're trying. Yeah, we're
Also, you need like a kilometer tube. You know what I'm saying? It's not just like a baseball field, which is set. You need a tube that like goes around, and it can't loop the loop. You know, it's not a roller coaster where it goes in the air.
It's a little ridiculous. Where do they find these places to train?
And it's not something you could do. You know, there are certain sports which technically you could do when you're poor. In general, Olympic athletes are wealthy. But I'm saying even some of the more technical, skiing, you know, archery, you know, like whatever it is, right? You know, there's technically aspects of it which you don't need to be wealthy. It's better if you're wealthy, and most Olympic athletes are, but you don't have to be.
Really, most of the Olympic athletes come from wealthier backgrounds?
They need to, unless they get a sponsor very young.
Right.
You need tons. I mean, they have the best training constantly.
Right.
And they're 15 years old. You know, it's not like...
Right. And they're playing obscure things that you need obscure equipment
right.
for.
Exactly.
Yeah. But there's a reason the USA basketball team is just so damn good.
Because they have the best basketball players.
Right, but why? Because it's so easy. It's so accessible. It's such an accessible sport. You know, there's a court, you know, within a 3-block radius, most likely.
Of everybody.
Balls are super cheap. You only need one. To practice, you don't even need.
Yeah, you don't need anybody.
9 other people.
You don't even need a hoop, technically. There's so many things you can practice. Right. Just by yourself.
Ball handling, yeah.
All right, so Amalek.
Yeah.
So we have this commandment, which is found in... The actual commandment is later on in Parshas Kiseitze, all the way pretty much at the end of the Torah, in Sefer Devarim. And basically, overall story. The Jews are coming out of Egypt. They're on top of the world. All of a sudden, the nation of Amalek comes and does battle with them. Let's just do it very simple, right, before we get into the deeper stuff. This nation of Amalek comes and does battle with them. Moshe davens, Yeshua goes out and leads the fight. Amalek gets wiped out. I mean, not literally wiped, but they get totally destroyed. Right? The Jews totally win the battle.
Yeah, but it was not an easy battle.
Technically not, but it seems that once the Jews got going, it seems that it was pretty easy.
Well, I mean, from what we know, is it wasn't so easy because there were ups and downs depending on Moshe's current state of tefillah and meditation, and also Klal Yisrael's state of emunah.
Yeah, so that is discussed in the Mishnayos and is a very clear barometer of how the battle went. Was basically Moshe being able to keep his connection to Hashem during the battle, and the Jews maintaining their connection to Hashem through Moshe, right? Seeing that Moshe was still davening, and then understanding what they needed to do in order to win the battle.
Right.
But that's totally from the Jewish standpoint. That has nothing to do with Amalek.
Yeah, personnel-wise,
on the
they
outside.
got walloped.
Yeah. So, like, on the outside, just looking at how the battle went, it was totally in the Jews' hands. They did whatever they wanted to do.
You know that what was that thing? That phone number that you could call before they were like, the internet everywhere. That you could call for scores and like weather.
Yeah, tell me.
Tell me. So I remember there was a dude on Tell Me who, like, specifically I remember it in college basketball where he would be like, I don't know, like, Temple opened a can of whoop ass on it. Do you remember that?
I do. I do remember that.
Either way, Klal Yisrael opened a can of whoop ass on him.
Yeah, and then so that's how that goes. So basically, the end of the Shalach is that there's this battle with Amalek, and the Jews beat him very well. And then Hashem tells Moshe, write this down, make this a memory, because he says, Hashem says, I'm going to destroy Amalek. And therefore you have to remember this day. I'm going to totally wipe out Amalek. And then, so that's B'Shalach. And then, we read for Parsha Zachor, is from Parsha Kiseitze, where basically we say that there's a mitzvah to remember Amalek, right? And the mitzvah is to remember to destroy Amalek. Basically, we have an obligation, and the way this is interpreted is that we have an actual obligation to wipe out Amalek, both physically and from memory, while at the same time remembering Amalek. So there's that obvious contradiction which we have to discuss. And also just the basic idea of wiping out Amalek.
The actual wording of the pasuk, right, is timche zachor Amalek, right? Right. It's an interesting lashon because
which is translated as wipe out the memory of Amalek.
I think that's a. Am I allowed to curse on this?
I'd rather not. Okay. I'm gonna bleep it out if you do curse, so you might as well not.
Barbie, can you leave this in? Just so people know why.
No, I'm not letting you curse. And
No, not the curse. Leave in this bit of conversation.
Oh, well, we'll find out how it goes.
No, but it's a terrible translation.
Okay.
Because I think zachor is so much deeper than a remembrance. Like, zachor means like a seed, like a root. Like there's zachor and nekeva. Zachor refers to like the original, like a burst of originality.
Mm-hmm.
Which is why zacharim are called. That's why men or masculinity is referred to as zachor.
Okay.
Zachor.
I hear what you're saying also, because we say zachor is a shar salach al-Amalek, and we say zachor is an active remembrance. Meaning there are so many things which someone will say, oh, do you remember that? I'll be like, yeah, I remember that. You'll have a memory, something that's just in your brain because of everything that happened. You just have a memory in your brain. That's not what this is talking about. This is talking about where you have to sit there and actually think about what happens. We say the same thing by Yetzias Mitzrayim, Zechel, Yetzias Mitzrayim, all these things. Whenever it says Zecher, it's about you have to be active in terms of this remembering. So when it says timche zachor Amalek, it's wipe out this total idea of Amalek. It's not just, I have a memory and let me take it out of my brain. That's not how it works. It's this whole
what was the word I just used? This whole idea of Amalek has to be totally eradicated, while at the same time, but it tells you that we have to remember that there was this idea of Amalek and what they did.
Right. Try this on for size. You're a big dude.
All right, let's do this.
One day we'll have this on video, hopefully. And then
Yeah,
people will
that'd be
be able to
awesome.
see that you're big, that you're bigger than I am.
If you couldn't guess, Antona.
There's a dominance hierarchy in this podcast. And it's...
You have a bigger beard.
No, but okay. Generally speaking, when you're dealing with a language, right? Definitions are extraordinarily important,
Yeah.
obviously, because a definition. The word isn't what defines. Well, maybe it goes both ways, but the definition of the word is extraordinarily important.
I like to say there's a difference between a definition and an explanation. They're not always the same thing.
Yeah,
Because I might use something to mean something.
Makes it definite. It's
Right.
It's definite. It's
Well,
not finite anymore. It
Right.
is something. You point to it.
Right, and that's
Right.
very different than an explanation, because I could explain using a certain word, and that might not be what it actually means. So you have to know what you're actually saying is not the same as how you explain it.
True. And also, when you're dealing with a language, this holds true for English. Like, if you really pay attention, if you're reading in English, and you pay attention, it obviously holds true as to how to define terms. Which is why when a lot of people get into arguments, and they're just, you can tell, like, if you're sitting there watching, that they're talking over each other. I mean, like, they're clearly missing the point of each person's, set of statements.
Yeah.
A lot of times, what's happening is there's a baseline level of misunderstanding of the actual terms that they're using.
Right.
Like, it happens a lot people don't do it on purpose. It just happens a lot. Let's say if the terminology you're talking about is truth, right? So, like, that's a hard thing to define.
Mm-hmm.
At least, it's a hard thing to define. So, people misunderstand the usage of that word, and truth for one guy means one thing, and truth for another person means another thing.
All right.
So, but especially when you're dealing with an ancient language that's not your mother tongue, defining your terms is extremely important.
Yeah.
I think a lot of Judaism is missed in a misunderstanding or in a misdefinition of terms.
Right. And does
And
it have
so
to
much
be...
of the depth of Judaism is in understanding, as best as you can, the definition of the terms.
Yeah, 100%. And just to make a point, though, I don't think it has to be specifically the fact that it's an ancient language. I think anytime you're translating from one language to another, you miss the point. That's the definition. That is what it means to be lost in translation.
Yeah.
That is what it means.
Creepy movie, by the way.
Never saw it.
Very creepy.
So
I saw it
check
when
out.
I was too young. Shouldn't see that movie.
Like most movies you saw. Probably.
Yeah, probably. I haven't really seen a movie other than Star Wars in a long time.
There you go. But it becomes all the more so important when it comes to Judaism. When it comes to how you're supposed to live your life, you have to know what you're doing.
Right. So the interesting, I think step 2 about what makes it interesting with the job that we as Jews nowadays have to do, really, is that the understanding that Lashon HaKodesh is a language that is sort of intrinsically definitive. Like, Lashon HaKodesh, Lashon HaKodesh isn't a language that people conglomerated definitions and ideas and then used a defining term to sort of make it simpler, which is what language is.
Right.
Like, I'm going to say one thing, and then you'll know that I mean X, Y, and Z combined, right?
Yeah.
Like, Lashon HaKodesh, is sort of like the V's in the opposite direction. The word is the definition of the idea.
The classic, just to give an example, I think the first instance, I shouldn't say that, a very classic explanation of this idea is Shamayim, which means sky, is Shamayim, there is water. That is that. So what you're saying is that whenever you have a word in Lashon HaKodesh, it's not that they decided that, let's call it the sky. because of the Germanic this and the Latin this or whatever. It's like, oh, we're going to say, what is this thing? And then we are going to call it that.
Right. It's right. Things sort of apparated into existence, you could say, maybe through the word itself. Get what I'm saying?
Let me try to expand, and you'll tell me if this is what you're saying.
And I'm not saying anything. I'm totally down for evolution. I'm a big proponent
Then
of
I don't know what you're
evolutionary
talking about.
theory.
I thought you were going somewhere else.
No, but my point here, to get back a little bit on track, though, is that
I mean, we could definitely talk for 3 hours just about this.
about the words. Yeah, the
We
easiest
can
one
go
I
through
think
so many things.
is that, which I it's not my own thing. Rabbi Tatz talks about this all the time. Is that obviously a davar is a thing, and daber is a word, or to speak. It's the same exact word.
Mm-hmm.
Without nikudos, it's literally the same exact word.
Okay.
And there's so many things like that.
What's the significance of that?
That the word is the thing, and it's not that I've decided that that's a table. Shulchan, the letters shulchan intrinsically are table, and then any deeper understanding of what a table is there to do. In Lashon HaKodesh, right? Hashem used ba'asar ma'amaros nivra ha'olam.
Right.
Hashem used Lashon HaKodesh to build the world. So the words, in a sense, or the letters, predate things, predate matter.
Right, exactly. And
so matter formulates through the letters, through the words.
Exactly. And that, we're going to talk about that at some point. Because we could talk about this for by itself for 2 hours. So let's bring it all the way back.
My point is that
to Amalek, zachor Amalek.
Right. Timche is an interesting word also, because I believe the first time we see the word, the idea of timche, or that is by the Dara Mabel.
Okay.
Hashem says that I'm gonna I forget the exact lashon over there, but I think he uses the word of it's a mechika, means to etch something, to etch it out, right?
Okay.
So yeah, that's part of with the word timche. It doesn't mean to just so we're defining our terms. That's all before we can get going down this particular road. Timche as zachor Amalek is really deep. The job of Klal Yisrael is to physically and metaphysically carve out the very root of what it is to be Amalek out of existence itself.
Right, meaning I could have thought that if I just say timche zachor Amalek, that would mean forget Amalek. Just forget about Amalek. And once everyone forgets about them, so it doesn't exist anymore, because the idea is gone. And if you actually translate the words of the Torah, that's not what it means. It's not enough to forget who Amalek is and what Amalek did. That's not what you have to do. You have to totally eradicate it. That's the idea. It becomes something tangible, as opposed to just, if I just say, forget it, whatever. Okay, whatever, I'll forget about it. Eventually it will be forgotten. But that's not enough. It's not enough for it to just be forgotten that people aren't thinking about it, because it's something which exists. Amalek, as I'm sure we'll get to, is not just the people of Amalek, it's the concept, it's the idea, it's the actions of Amalek. There are Amalek-style actions, there are Amalek-style people.
Yeah, it's an archetypal reality.
And you have to get rid of that.
It's
not about forgetting it, it's about getting rid of it. That's what it is.
Yeah.
And that's very important.
Which is the lashon of zachor.
Yeah.
Zachor is as far back as you can go.
Yeah. As you said, a proactive concept, a creative concept, something which actually does something. It's not just a memory in your memory bank that you could just choose to take out.
Yeah, no, it predates brain matter. The idea of Amalek, what Amalek stands for, obviously it predates Adam Rishon, because the Amaleki philosophy, right, and ideology was embodied in the Nachash.
Well, before we get into stuff like that, because I do want to hear about that. I think at this point we do need to start defining what Amalek is.
Yes.
So let's do that. And then we'll talk about where we see Amalek in this world. We'll get a little Kabbalistic. We'll get into Purim. Concept of Amalek.
Purim. Can we refer to it only as Purim?
You're more than welcome to refer to it only as Purim.
Okay, dope.
So what do we see from Amalek? So first of all, just to give a little background, Amalek comes from Esav. And
Amalek, the actual dude.
yes.
Right. Comes from Eliphaz, who comes from Esav.
Yes. But we're gonna talk about the people, and then we'll get more into the concept. I think it's just the way the Torah flows. Let's do that. So this is the classic way.
An actual dude.
Yes.
Person.
Yes. Who fathered a nation.
Yeah.
Called Amalekis.
Right.
They're called. And okay, so the first time we see them since he's born, since Amalek's born, because his birth is recorded in the Torah, the first time we see them is in Parshas Beshalach. That the Bnei Yisrael it's before they've gotten the Torah. I think I said earlier that it was after they got the Torah, so it's a little bit before they got the Torah.
One fun fact about Amalek.
Fun fact about Amalek.
Yeah.
Wow, you never
Amalek,
hear Amalek and fun put in the same
That's
sentence.
a fun fact. Dude slept with his mom. Just throwing that out there.
That is a fun fact. That definitely is a fun fact.
It's a fun fact.
It's a fun fact, yes.
It's something you can bring up in normal conversations.
Yes.
It's a fun fact.
And impress your friends.
Yeah.
And loved ones.
Impress your friends. That's how we're going to do when we get sponsorships.
Yeah.
Impress your friends with fun facts
from back of the base.
From back of the base. You can buy them for $9.99 a month. Get unlimited fun facts, such as Amalek slept with his mom.
Moving on. So, Bnei Yisrael have come out of Mitzrayim, and the idea is that at this time, they've gone through the 10 Makos, they've become the first people to ever...
10 Makos. Makos 10. Do-do-do-do-do-do.
Oh, you have to finish the song. You can't just do it. Alright, I'll give it to you later.
Okay.
So, they've become the first slave population to ever escape Mitzrayim in tons of time, lots of time.
One other thing, though, about forgetting songs.
Yeah.
I recently went through a ceremony called the Tekes, where
how was that for you?
It was a while back, but it was funny because there's a part of the Tekes, right, where soldiers sing Hatikva.
Okay.
I don't know Hatikva. I just know the tune. So I'm standing there on stage, like in the front line, just like like looking around, trying to figure out why there's no placards. Somebody hold up a telephone. I don't know the damn words. It was
you would think they would teach it to you beforehand.
No,
there's got to be other soldiers. No, there's got to be other soldiers that don't know all the words. Come on. Everyone knows all the words to Hatikva?
I don't know. I mean, if they were to do the American National Anthem, I would know all the words.
Yeah, because you went to 1 million baseball games. That's the reason you know the National Anthem. Because they play it at baseball games.
Yeah, true.
Seriously, that's why you know it.
I kind of miss baseball games.
So, they come out of Mitzrayim, they go through Kriyas Yamsuf, and basically the world saw them as indestructible. And the way Chazal explain it is that Amalek comes and decides to show the world that they're not actually indestructible, that they can be hit, they can be hurt. And the crazy thing about it is that Amalek got destroyed during the battle. They were totally beaten down by the Jews, but at the end they're like, yeah, but we did it. We attacked them. We got near them. You would think that a nation which has the sea split for it and all the amazing miracles that happened there, how many hundreds there were, could not be gotten within 100 miles. And Amalek, not only do they get within 100 miles, they get into a battle with them, and it totally changes the complexion of the Jewish people. That the rest of the world looks at them and says, okay, you're the strongest of us, but you are still one of us.
You're vulnerable. Here's a question, though, for you. I think it's pretty obvious that the affront of Amalek was twofold. But was it more directed to Klal Yisrael, or was it more directed to God?
Does it matter?
Yes, it matters. Why? Because
Hashem has decided at this point that the Jews are going to be his representation of himself in this world. You know, that you mess with the Jews, you're messing with God. So you get 10 Makos. You get Kriyas Yamsuf and the Egyptians getting totally massacred over there. You eventually get Matan Torah. You get the 40 years in the desert and all the nisim that happened then. You get the trip into Eretz Yisrael. And when I say trip, I mean the journey into Eretz Yisrael. Okay. We're getting down.
You get to fly on an airplane with a lot of psych D.
So the idea is that, yes, God has chosen this nation as his representatives on this earth. That if you mess with this nation, you're actually messing with him. So Amalek coming, they can't say, oh, we didn't mean to mess with God. We meant to mess with the Jews. It doesn't work that way. So that's why I would say it doesn't matter what they were trying to do. At this point, it's the same thing. In terms of that question.
Okay. I might push back a little bit on that. I think that there is a difference between the, at least as of now, I think I could see a difference between an affront against Klal Yisrael versus an affront against God. An affront against Klal Yisrael might be like, I don't like this idea of favorites. I don't like it. I don't care that there's a God. There could be a God. That's not a problem.
Mm-hmm.
I don't like this idea of one being favored. I don't like this idea of special treatment. Or you could say the affront was towards God, obviously attacking his chosen people.
Yeah.
But the affront was more to God saying, I don't want you in this world. You, God, I don't want your hand in this world. And I'm going to do whatever I can, however nihilistic it might be, to say, you're not here, I don't want you here.
So I hear your second point. I would disagree with your first point in the sense that if you're trying to say that you're more deserving of someone's attention, the way to do it is not to go out and beat up the teacher's pet on the playground.
Wrong.
No, if you're dealing with a masochist, then fine.
Yes,
but who says he's dealing with a masochist? Why? Why do you say that?
Because this is where it all goes for me.
What, that God is a masochist?
No, like Amalek.
No.
Masochistic.
No, so I'm saying, so then they're just stupid.
Yeah, duh.
Oh, okay, fine. I mean, if you're going to do that,
no, they're not stupid in the sense that they don't know what they're doing. They know what they're doing. What
right.
they're trying to do is stupid because it's fruitless. It's a fruitless endeavor.
No, meaning if I'm trying to get in someone's good graces, I don't beat up their favorite thing. You know, like if I want to become, get in with this really rich guy, I don't go and shoot his favorite horse.
They don't want to get in. They just don't want anyone to have that spot. And
so that's an attack on God. That's not an attack on the Jews. That's saying to God, there's no favorites here. Get out of here.
Okay,
it's
so
not about the
more,
Jews.
Okay, even more to my original point.
So I'm okay with that. The only thing I would say against you is that no, okay. I mean, I would say I hear what you're saying. I think I like my way of saying it better, but I hear what you're saying. Okay, so I'm good with that.
Cool.
Okay, so that's the story of Amalek. And then all of a sudden, the next thing that we see is that we have to destroy Amalek. That's the next thing. So Amalek comes in, they show the world that the Bnei Yisrael are not indestructible, that you can get there. They're the strongest ones in the world, but you're on the court with them. Right? We can fight a battle with them. We're gonna get to them. We're gonna be able to shoot an arrow, and they might kill us the next second, but we can get there. And right. That means that eventually we will be as strong as them. Because history shows that empires rise and fall. So if they're just a regular empire, then we'll just wait our turn and it'll be us.
They just also so people know they tried to create alliances to attack Klal Yisrael when they did, but other nations backed out like last minute, and Amalek still said, all right, screw you, we're going in. Like they had ganged up a pretty significant contingency.
Where is this?
Klal Yisrael.
Where is this sourced?
I think it's in the Yafei Toar.
Okay.
Which is a parish on Medrash Rabbah. where he says there that why is it the pasuk says that Klal Yisrael left Mitzrayim chamushim
Right.
with
So the famous thing is they got the Torah.
right. So,
Okay,
but what
chamushim
it
means
literally
armed.
means is armed.
Yeah.
So he says over there that why did they leave armed? Because they had gotten word, basically, that on their way out, Amalek had created this contingency to fight them. So they left armed specifically. That, I think, isn't a Barbanel.
Okay.
Point being, though, like after Kriyas Yamsuf, though, this was before Kriyas Yamsuf, obviously they left. But after Kriyas Yamsuf, the other nations were like, screw that, I'm not doing that.
Okay.
So Amalek still was dead set. They were like, no,
Yeah. It
we're
was
doing this.
a real. I'm forgetting the word.
Strong conviction.
It was
beliefs.
yeah, right.
They weren't messing around.
This was very important to them. So what exactly were they trying to do? So what have you heard about the subject? What drives
what were
them to
they
do
trying
such
to
a...
do then, and therefore always, or what are they always trying to do?
What were they trying... Well, that's the original... that's the original time. That's the first time where you see Amalek show
No,
face.
wrong. I would definitely push back against that.
What was the
First time you see Amalek in its full embodiment is the Nachash in Gan Eden.
Okay, so hold on. So again, before we get Kabbalistic, we have to first understand what Amalek is, and then we can show other places in history, because we still haven't defined what Amalek is and what they do.
Okay.
So
Right, so we have a Rashi that says I think something pretty profound, that they were trying to cool down the waters.
so that's the
that's what you were
Rashi
referring to
in
before.
Kiseitse. That, and I always heard something very big about that explanation, because the words in the pasuk is Asher Karcha Baderach,
Right.
and Rashi explains that Karcha means Lashon Mikra, is happenstance.
Right.
And the way that I've always heard Amalek is that they try to make things happenstance. That there is nothing special in this world.
Materialists.
There's nothing greater than anything else. You have a God and a nation. We're going to show you how this nation is really not backed by God. It's a normal, everyday nation, which right now just happens to be the Golden State Warriors. But at one point, at some point, they're going to come and they're going to come down too. No empire lasts forever. Okay, and history has proven that. And they knew history back then too. It had still been, even though it was only 2,000 years into history, that this is nothing special here. They made everything happenstance. So that is the worst thing that can happen. That is the worst thing that can happen.
John Kerry.
And that, okay, I'm not going to get political right now. That is the worst thing that you can do. The worst thing you can do is take something which is special, which is holy, which is greater in this world, and make it totally mundane, totally normal. And that's why the idea of Amalek, that's why it goes beyond a physical, two aspects. I'll just list both and then I'll explain them. The first one is that's why there's a physical obligation to totally eradicate them physically, because that nation embodies this idea. And number two is that's why we have to eradicate the memory, that we can't just forget about it. Because if you just forget about it and you don't pay attention to it, and that's how you forget about it, eventually it comes back. If you don't get it out of your system, and this is what you were saying before, if it's not something which you totally chisel out, totally take out of your existence, then it's always going to come back. You might not call it Amalek. Nowadays, we don't know who Amalek is.
I do.
But the fight still exists.
No, I actually do.
But the fight still
Maybe
exists.
I might tell people on this very podcast who
Well,
Amalek is.
according to the Vilna Gaon and other posting, if you know who Amalek is, you're obligated to kill them. Do you want to do it now, or do you want to wait till after we finish the podcast?
I'm gonna wait.
Okay, let's wait on that. So what do I mean by those two things? So in terms of physically, what was Amalek? I have here an essay that I wrote a little while ago about Amalek and why we're obligated to kill them. All right, so we have a physical obligation to kill Amalek. So what does that mean? So in those days, Chazal teach us that the Amalekim as a people, they were evil. They taught their kids, and this is where Haman got it from eventually through the generations, that they had to do everything they could to go against Hashem and to torture the Jewish people. Right? And that was all based off of this idea that the Jewish people are not special. God is there's nothing spiritual in this world. I don't know if they felt that God didn't exist. I don't know if they were atheists in that manner, but the idea was that it didn't have any impact on this world. There could be nothing that could stand out.
In my personal opinion, based on things that I've read and whatnot,
Okay.
before let's say to make it easy, basically before the destruction of the Beis Rishon, the first Beis Hamikdash, it was 99%, let's say, impossible to be an atheist.
Okay.
Like physically impossible.
Mm-hmm. There's just too much happening.
There was
that couldn't
too
be
much
explained by technology or anything like that. Also.
Yeah, exactly. There was too
nowadays
much
there's so many things you could just say,
everywhere.
it's just smoke and mirrors and stuff like that. But
Yeah, there was too much spirituality back then, but this was mainly before they exercised the ability to have prophecy.
okay.
Because along with that came Avodah Zarah.
Right. Okay,
And then
so I hear your
atheism
point
became-
about that.
Okay, sorry. Anyway,
No, that's the thing. So that's why. So this is always very interesting to me. That is the definition of evil. Evil, we believe, whether it's practically or kabbalistically, evil needs to be eradicated from the world. And only after evil is eradicated, then there could be shleimus. Then we could have this state of bliss that we call Mashiach.
okay,
whatever
one
that
point
is.
about this before you could continue, because it sort of bugs me,
Okay.
and I think it's an important point. Like, when we talk about eradicating evil from the world, or destroying evil at its root, or anything of that nature, I think, at least I do, and I think a lot of people probably would, get some sort of like vengeance, like feeling,
Mhm.
some sort of like blissful, vengeful, hoorah kind of thing.
Yeah.
I don't think that's the right way to look at it.
Okay. I think I have a point about this, but I want to hear what you have to say.
It's not. I mean, we have psukim that Chazal tell us are there to let us know, like, when your enemies fall, don't smile and laugh.
Right.
Not the time.
When fall evecha al tismach.
Right.
Right. Don't rejoice when your enemies fall.
And I think that's a really big deal. Like, when destroying evil, it needs to be done and especially when it comes to dealing with other human beings,
Right.
who may no doubt embody an evil thing which does need to be destroyed, right? But it's not a blissful vengeance that's taking place.
Right.
It's a calculated necessity
Yeah.
of unclogging the system.
Yeah. And I have 2 points that totally support what you're saying right now. The first one is a very famous Gemara in Brachos with, as my mother calls her, Rebbetzin Bruria, who was Rebbetzin Bruria, Remeir's wife, who
Right.
she herself was a huge scholar.
Right.
That Remeir was going to curse someone who was a Russia because he had done something bad to Remeir.
Right.
And she said, no, don't curse him because it's not, and this has been borrowed by the Goyim, but she says it's not the person who needs to be eradicated, it's the sins that need to be eradicated, right? It says, the pasuk in Tehillim says, Yitamu chatoim min haaretz, that sin should be eradicated from the world. And she said to him, it says sin should be eradicated and not chotim, not the sinners.
Right.
So you need to go and help him become a good person. That's what you have to do.
Daven for him.
Right,
If
daven
you can't
for-
get close, it's not healthy for you to get
to
close.
be a good person. So that's totally supportive of what you're saying, that the idea of eradicating evil is to get rid of the actual evil. And that's why it's so amazing about Amalek that Hashem tells us that these people are totally not just emotionally or spiritually evil, but they're physically evil as well. Their whole existence was evil. Now, there's some parts of this which don't totally fit with that, because there's another Gemara that says that the children of Haman became Jews.
Right.
So there is a concept
I think
somehow.
Remeir may have come from Haman.
I don't know about that. I don't know
I
about
think
that.
that's true.
Okay, I have to look that up. But either way, the idea is that at some point, even Amalek, even someone who is an Amaleki themselves, can become a Jewish person. So as much as we do have this obligation of physical annihilation against Amalek, right? There is an idea of that we have to get rid of that evilness itself. And then the second point to that is people last year I was talking about this. I think it was last year, maybe it was 2 years ago, that I ran into a few people in one Shabbos who all expressed grave reservations to me about the fact that the Jews need to go out and kill Amalek. That it's kind of like, how can we do that? How can we go kill Amalek? So let's assume that Jews are totally peace-loving people, which is hard to assume if you read the Bible. Okay, so read the Bible, everybody, the Old Testament. But the amazing thing, if you look in Parshas Zosa Bracha, right? So Moshe is giving out brachos to every single tribe before he dies and before they go into Eretz Yisrael. And what does he say to Levi? He says, Levi, you guys are awesome, because when it came down to it and people needed to be killed, you didn't care who it was. You didn't care if it was your relative, you didn't care if it was your neighbor, you didn't care if it was your friend. And he's referring to the story found in Parshas Kisisa, when the only people who did not do the Avera of the Egel Azav was Shevet Levi, and Moshe said, Mila Hashem Elai, and they came and they killed all the sinners.
Yeah.
And who was Levi? Levi is the only tribe, this is in the Torah, Levi is the only tribe who does not send soldiers out to war. Because they're the scholars, and they're the ones who are totally committed to spiritual lifestyle, and they have to stay focused on their relationship with Hashem, and they can't spare any time even to go out to war. As opposed to other tribes which are also holy, like the tribe of Yisachar is also very known for their Torah study, but they have to send soldiers out to fight. Levi is totally focused on, and they're dafka them. They're the ones who were like, we need to kill people? All right, we're ready to go. Why? Not because they had this bloodlust, not because they had this vengeful attitude. It was because Hashem said these people have totally corrupted themselves, that they need to be eradicated. And that's hard for us to picture, because we're not warriors by trade, like they were 1,000 years ago, or however long ago, that more people were warriors than nowadays. Nowadays, it's a very small, select group of people. Even people who go to the army are not necessarily warriors.
Hey.
That's not makes you. I'm not talking about everybody. Some people do a lot of good work, but that's what's so amazing, right? Is that Shevet Levi is the peaceful, harmonizing, spiritual part of the Jewish people, and they're the ones who get praised for being the quote unquote, like bloodlustful people. But what was the explanation behind it? Because Hashem said we have to do it. And that's the idea behind physically eradicating Amalek.
Yeah.
It's hard for us to picture, again, I don't know what it takes to be somebody that Hashem says you're totally physically corrupted and therefore you cannot live. We have some idea of it with the Ben Sora Amora, which is a child who has seemingly gone totally off the deep end, that even though he hasn't done anything which would require him to be killed by Torah law, Beis Din kills him because he's showing where he's going to head, and we're trying to get rid of him before he does anything really, really terrible. Chazal tell us it never happened.
It never can happen. It is a machlokas, but
the idea behind it is, though, that this concept exists, that there is such a person who, even though they personally have not done anything which requires them by law to be killed, that they still have corrupted themselves. And that's the idea behind killing Amalek. So I think that supports what you're saying, that it's not a vengeful thing. Anything to add about the physical annihilation of Amalek?
Well, it doesn't fully sit well with me, when I'm honest with myself. And I've thought about it for a long time, and I think I have the general idea of where to go with it, but it's just plain and simple. It's not an idea that sits well with the 21st century Western mind.
100%. It's very difficult. And that's what I was saying, because we don't, even if we did have that mentality, even if we did have that warrior mentality, hopefully it would still be difficult to reconcile, because that's not naturally the type of people that we are.
100%.
But there's a level over here that we're discussing.
Right. And
of connection to God, of commitment to God.
Yeah.
But I have an answer to that too. I'm sorry I keep interrupting you, but
no.
I have a response to that too. So these people that I that I was discussing with over Shabbos, I asked all of them the same question separately. I asked each of them individually the same question.
How did you have enough time? You pull them aside, bring them into the room.
Because it was like every single meal, someone asked me the question.
Sit.
I'm not afraid.
Question,
I'm not afraid. Here's my question.
Yes.
Someone comes to you right now, gives you a time machine, right?
Yes.
And says it's programmed in to go back to Baby Hitler.
Oh, the famous Baby Hitler.
Terminator
question.
style. Yeah. Now, disregard any of the
Can we
possibilities.
switch from Hitler to Stalin or Mao? No, seriously, they killed
Okay,
way
let's
more
go to
people.
Stalin. Let's go to Stalin. So Hitler gets all the press as the bad guy. Stalin wants
He's-
some press too.
Not only does he want press, the dude deserves some press.
Okay, let's not
Killed
get
like
crazy.
60 some odd million people. Mao killed more. Mao killed like 100.
It's true. It's true. All right, but let's stick with Hitler because that's the classic example for now.
It hits more at home for the Jews.
Right, exactly.
Jews.
The Jews, and we shake our fists in fury. So basically, the question I asked, and forget any Back to the Future, space-time continuum ramifications. Nothing. The only thing that will change here is that Hitler will not be born, right, and fewer people will die in the Holocaust. And this evil will
wouldn't be a
not
Holocaust.
say, right. Well, I'm going with that God has a plan thing, but let's assume there wouldn't be a Holocaust. That's the only thing that would change. Everything else in the world will be fine. Don't worry about the space-time continuum, Dr. Brown. Everything's good, right? So I'm giving you the keys to the time machine.
Yes.
But you have to go back and kill baby Hitler. So what do you answer?
Would I do it or would
Would
I
you
not do it?
Could you do it?
Could I do it? Of course I could do it.
Okay, fine. Would you do it?
Would I do it?
See, this is why we get along.
Why?
Because you're taking the time to think about this.
It's not an easy question.
Every single person that I said this to,
Yeah.
they were all saying, how could Jews kill Amalek? Would you do it? Of course I would do it. Like, oh, really? I couldn't. So I'm like,
I could.
no, I'm saying like,
I know I could.
I was sitting here like you, because I asked myself the question as well. And I'm sitting there going like, man, to kill a baby. Like, that's intense. That's intense, man.
That's super intense.
But for most people, the reaction was, I spoke to 3 or 4 different people, and their reaction was all immediate. Of course I would kill it. Of course I would kill the baby. Are you crazy? You're just going to kill a baby? Like, anything can happen. Like, how can you just kill a baby?
Yeah.
So the idea, what's the difference between that and Amalek? There's absolutely zero difference. So I sat there and I said, I don't know if I would do it. And I'm glad you're sitting here going like, I don't know. I don't know if I really have to think about it. Like, you have to put me
on a lot of
in
factors.
so many things, but nothing to do with the space-time continuum, just with your own morality in your head.
Yeah.
I'm saying that. So this is exactly my point. So for us though, because we're acknowledging this, because we're awesome, and we're acknowledging the reality of what it means to go out and kill somebody, and we're not just focusing on like, what? The Jewish people are going to go out and kill 1 million people? So it's the same for us to say, could we kill Amalek, as it is to say, could we kill baby Hitler? But for somebody who's just focusing on like, how can you tell the Jews to go out and kill tons of people? So all of a sudden, when it comes to baby, oh no, that's a real thing. That's right in front of me. Of course I could do that. It's not so easy to kill anybody, even a baby.
And not only, like, the part of the mitzvah of destroying Amalek, as we know from Shaul, unfortunately, God bless Shaul, big tzaddik.
Big tzaddik.
It's everybody and everything.
Yeah.
You got to destroy their property.
Yeah.
Got to destroy men, women, and children.
Yeah. Children as well. Babies. Baby Hitler. You have to kill baby Hitler. That's what you have to do.
That's literally what it is.
Yeah. And that's why to that response in terms of, how could Jews kill, like if you were, could you kill baby Hitler? The immediate response was, yeah. Like, and my personal response was, I don't know, because killing is hard.
Let me see if I can maybe put it like this. If I was in a position, right, where I knew exactly who this baby was going to become, and I knew exactly the decisions that he was going to make, and how much,
well, that's
sheer
what I'm giving
evil.
you.
No, 100%. But I'm just like sort of stretching out the ideas to make it a little bit more like fluorescent. And like, I hope that if I came to the decision to say like, okay, the greater good isn't killing this baby.
Yeah.
I hope that the act of killing the baby would be done in tears and trepidation.
Mm-hmm. Like as a mitzvah.
Yeah.
Right. Exactly.
And that's
killing
my
Amalek.
point. Exactly. Like, how awful is this thing that needs to be done and yet is ultimately good? And I know it's good. And, there's no vengeance here at all. I'm not pissed at this baby. This is sort of just, I don't have a better way to say it now. It's just sort of what needs to be done.
And I think the avoda that we have is to get to a state where we recognize that it's totally good, and our only fear and trepidation is that we've made the correct calculation, not that our actions are in doubt.
Correct. Yeah, I'm not right. Yeah. Yeah, you're not doubting the action. Like I'm saying, like I know for a fact this is going to be baby Hitler, and I know for a fact, let's say that there are going to be chances for this Hitler when he's 13, 14, 15, 22 to switch paths, to go a different direction. I know that he's not going to take those opportunities.
Yeah.
Right? So I know for a fact, like, right, it would still be done with tears.
Mm-hmm.
Right. I think nowadays some people...
But simple for doing a mitzvah. Like if you... I say that's part of the avoda, not that that's the ultimate thing, is that you're so sure of what it is that you have to do, and you're the one that has to do it.
Right. The simcha is not on the act so much as it is on the serving God properly.
Yeah.
And doing something for him. Not that he couldn't do it himself, obviously, but here's an underlying thing that I think that's there, and it's a direction I would want to take, is obviously right now Amalek is not embodied in anything.
Oh, so should we talk about the mentality of Amalek? That's the physical. That's the idea of the physical manifestation.
The physical manifestation of Amalek. So
should we get now into the?
At what point was Amalek disembodied, so to speak?
It seems a little bit... so Haman is called Agagi. So everyone knew that he was from Agag, and Agag was the last surviving member of Amalek.
See, he was the king?
He was the king of Amalek at the time of Shaul. Shaul was given Shaul was the next person who was given the opportunity to destroy Amalek, to eradicate Amalek from the face of the earth, and he failed in his mission. And he left Agag over for one night, and depending on which medrash you follow, which parish you read, apparently during that one night he was able to impregnate a woman who escaped, and eventually from her came Haman.
Hey man.
So Haman was for sure a member of Amalek, and then
just a quick timeline here. Shaul was the first king of a unified. He was the first king of Israel.
King, yeah.
And he came before David Amalek.
Yes.
Shaul took rule about 1,000 years after they entered the land.
That long?
844 years, I think.
That long.
Yeah.
We need a timeline.
We need a timeline. Ellie told me we need a timeline.
Oh. Well.
You gotta get a timeline, boys.
Thanks, Ellie.
We gotta get a sponsor, and then we gotta hire another dude
to research for us?
Yeah, Jamie. No, you just say, pull that up.
Pull that up right now. Yeah. So Haman was from him, and then there's that Gemara that says that the children of Haman became Jewish.
We did. We had,
but after that,
we had a number of quarrels with Amalek. In between, they were involved in other battles. They were a well-established nation, and they always had a bit of a thing for Klal Yisrael.
Right. Those are the major conflicts.
Or the major conflicts.
Major conflict is Parshas B'Shalach, Shaul, Haman.
Right.
Those are the highlights.
In Nevi'im Miksuvim, there's a number of quarrels.
Yeah. But those are the major ones. These are the major ones.
Right.
Okay, so I know we want to get to this thing with the Nachash and stuff like that. So now let's move over to the.
So wait. So just it seems like sometime after Purim.
Yeah.
Amalek sort of disintegrated.
Right. So somewhere around the time of the second Beis Hamikdash.
right, and became a disembodied, unidentifiable.
Right. Even though they
Force.
must exist in some physical form.
Now, to be
but not
very
as a
clear,
nation.
when you say they must exist, you don't mean that they know who they are.
No. I'm saying just
No one
practically everyone is, I mean, unless somehow every single male Amaleki died without children at some point. There
But the
probably
seed-
is people, are
Oh, for
people
sure.
who are descended from Amalek.
Statistically, well, maybe not us, but statistically, everyone in the Western world is probably somehow the seed of
That's
Amalek
scary.
or
That's
somebody
very
else.
scary. You might be right. That's a very scary thought.
Is that wrong statistically? I mean, how far
No,
back?
I guess not. If Amalek's, if Esav is Rome, there's no, I don't know exactly how the thing worked out, but let's say that Esav's descendants, so they got to Europe, and Amalek people may have been among them, and eventually they get to all over Europe, and then they get to the States. And, I guess, Eastern people are not from Amalek, and I guess that Africans are not from Amalek, I would just assume. But Europeans, and with their descendants in the North America, it's quite possible. Which gets into very, I guess the word, I don't mean this, but it would be great religious consequences in terms of, how you look at the American influence on social and cultural Judaism and all those things, and European as well. It would be a very good rant, I would say.
But right, so they become disembodied. But the obviously there are seedlings and children of the original seed of Amalek, but that's not anymore. It's not anymore a useful way to deal with the issue of Amalek.
Right. It's just
It's
we don't know who
completely
they are
useless.
anymore.
We don't know who they are. They don't know who they are. Chazal tell us that we won't know who they are until an actual prophet comes and says, "These are they."
Right.
Even when that's an interesting thing. Even when the Navi comes, it's Elio, right?
Yeah.
That's when we're gonna know. And says, "These are they. These are Amalek." That's gonna be news to them too, which is an interesting sort of like.
Yeah. Conundrum.
Like, some guys gonna be like,
Whoops.
"Oh, me."
Don't pick me. Don't pick me. But so what that means is that if the only concept of Amalek was a physical nation, then this mitzvah would be done. Like it wouldn't be practical right now. It'd be practical, soon, but not right now, currently.
Well, I missed that.
If the only side of Amalek was a physical side of Amalek, you have to eradicate the physical nation of Amalek.
Well, we'd be screwed.
But there's nothing we could do about it now.
There's
It
absolutely
just wouldn't be
nothing we can do.
applicable.
Right.
So,
But there is something we
but
can do.
yet, we continue to read Parsha Zachor every single year, and we have the obligation to eradicate Amalek.
Right.
So that's when we move on to the second aspect of the concept of Amalek. And we've discussed, at least I've said my explanation for it, is that what Amalek does is that he takes something special and he makes it mundane. He makes it normal. He makes it not significant. Right? That the Jewish people were coming out and they were spiritually at the top of the world. They were the chosen people. They had done things no one else would do. And all Amalek could see was that, hey, I can fight them. I'll get killed, but I can fight them. And if I can fight them, right, if they can bleed, then we can beat them. That
Right.
type of mentality. And they bleed. So we can beat them. They didn't see anything special about it, and that's all. So the idea of what we need to do by eradicating Amalek nowadays, and it's not something we can just forget. We can't put it on the side because again, if we put it on the side, it comes back. The idea of eradicating Amalek even nowadays is to show how everything is special. To show how we are special as a Jewish people. We have a connection to Hashem that is special. We can elevate the rest of the world and make that something special. And getting ahead of myself, because we're going to come back to this later, but just to finish the thought, that's the idea of Purim. That something seems normal, but it's actually special.
Thank you very much, everyone, for listening. That's it for this week. stay tuned for next week where we will have part 2 of our Amalek discussion. In the meantime, you could find us at backofthebase.blogspot.com. You can also find all of our episodes on YouTube. Just search for Back of the Base. The YouTube episodes go up at the same time as they go up on the blog. Please email us at backofthebase@gmail.com. Base is spelled B-E-I-S, with any questions, comments, or just to say hi. Once again, we are looking for sponsorships. You are welcome to email us for more details. We look forward to hearing from you. I'm on Twitter at Kumzitzguy, Kumzitzguy, and both Yehuda and I are on Facebook. Just search for Yosef Siegel or Yehuda Rabinowitz. Thank you very much, everyone, for listening. Have a wonderful, wonderful Purim, and we will speak to you next week on Back of the Base.